Hi everyone, my name is Devney Ayers, and I'm here to explain to you how I created my mind map and my affinity diagram. Introduction. So, whole systems change. So, it gets everyone involved in the process and people start to feel appreciated. So today we're going to learn about a bunch of different theories and methods of how you can create systems change. So we're going to do appreciative inquiry, future search, open space technology, graphic facilitation, charrettes, conversation cafe, peer spirit circling, whole systems, and rapid results. Part of the introduction has to do with the whole systems change method. So as you can see on the visual on the right, it just has a few different ways that it's helpful, and a huge thing about that is it rethinks the organization structure. And I think that's really important, just because when you're coming into an organization, you have no idea what exactly they're going to need. And what I liked about the whole systems approach is that it combines many different theories and applications. That way you're not waiting on one in order to wait for the next one to come along. Alright, so process. This is how I did it. So there were the required ones that I needed to do, which was appreciative inquiry, future search, open space technology, graphic facilitation, and charrettes. And I chose to do conversation cafe, peer spirit circling, rapid results, and whole systems as well. And it's important because it focuses on the positive and the solving the problems, and it includes everyone versus a supervisor being inaccessible and not willing to help make a good change. So how did I do this? So I did things a little bit backwards. So to make my affinity diagram, I did not use Post-its. I tried and that just did not work for me. So instead, I actually did it on the computer in Microsoft Word and made lists, and that's how I did it. And I divided it into the 6 characteristics we were given, which is system, purpose, journey, evidence, values, principles, and then methods. And then I looked for the similarities in each of them in order to find out if they have any commonalities related to the characteristics. So my expectations at the beginning of this assignment. On the left, I look a little bit scared, kind of like Maddie Ziegler there. I was a little nervous just because this is a lot of information to process, and I really wasn't sure how I was going to do it. But then I turned it into the guy on the right, like Ari Gold, and I was like, I got this. I can do it. So my affinity diagram, it's a 3-step method that I did in 3 different Microsoft Word documents. The first one is I took the notes, then I found themes in the notes, and then I took the themes and organized them into categories. Here we go. So here's the notes that I took, and I literally just went through and did bullet point notes of each of the different models we were given. The next step is I found themes in them. So I'm going to just kind of scroll through. As you can see, for example, used for fundamental change, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different areas that can be used for fundamental change, and they can go into the system. And then here, using for a new organization focus could be working for the system or the purpose. So I was able to use that twice, actually, in my mind map. And then lastly, what I did was I organized them into complete. This is my affinity diagram, pretty much. This is my affinity list. And I organized everything. So I've got a system, and then I have the different kinds of methods, and everything from each of the different categories that went together all went into this this affinity diagram. So I've got lots of information here. Alright, let me get back to this for you. Okay. Mind map. So basically what I did is I took the 3 categories. Or I took the categories that was in that last slide, the last step, and I made a graphic representation of it. So I literally just wrote out onto a piece of paper what I did with my affinity diagram. Okay, so systems. This is my mind map for the system, and it is focusing on what's the best method, the who, what, where, when, why, how, and when, how many. And I learned that there's so many different methods that you can use based on different needs, and some can be used for an entire organization and some can be used just to build up morale, so it all depends. And it's important because you need to be prepared and to know when and when not to use something based on the participants and what has worked in the past. Purpose. So the purpose is, it basically asks why and how would this be different or better than another strategy. So I learned that there are many right ways to get to the intended result, and a lot of it focuses on everyone and including diversity, which is really important because companies are filled with so many different kinds of people, and I feel like everyone does have value. So when there are strategies that can come up that can help and include everyone, I think that's really important. And you need to know your destination so you know how to get there. Journey. So basically just the steps in the process and how much time it's going to take. And I learned that there's the casual and formal different settings, and some of them are shorter and intense, and they come out with a solution to the problem, and some are more long and drawn out and take some time to figure out what the problem is and how to solve it. And it's important to have a plan of attack. Evidence. So basically this is my experience using with the methods, and then theory and research, and then examples of success. So I realized that I don't really have any experience with the methods. The only thing I sort of related to was in the peer spirit circling in the conversation cafe, where people were using a talking object to signify who's supposed to be speaking. I think that's what I've used in teaching, but beyond that, this is all pretty new. And it's important because it's all based on research and results, so you're not just making it up as you go along. You actually have things to back it up, which is going to be really important when you present something to a new company, so that they know this is a legit way to create change. And also, you can understand why and how things fail, so that way you don't make those same mistakes. Alright, values. So basically, what are the rules that guide this method, and what are the beliefs that I bring to myself into this? So a lot of that focuses on bringing people together, and it's important because it lets me know what I'm willing and willing not to do, and I can ask myself, does this go against my values? So the model, this is the last one. So basically this is describing the method so everyone can understand it. And it's important to just make it simple, and I think representations like a mind map make it very easy for people to see how you could possibly use one of these methods. And it's so important because most of our clients won't know the organization development jargon, and so they're going to need to make this information accessible to clients, and it should be just like teaching, where you can hand them this information without telling them anything about it and walk away, and they should be able to understand and implement it on their own, and that's how clear it has to be. So here's just how these tools can be used, and what I found really interesting was that a mind map was actually started in the 3rd century, and people, philosophers and mathematicians, they were using it back then in order to visually represent ideas. And the affinity diagram has been used in a lot of businesses in order to bring people together, and it's really good to help group according to factors to organize, analyze, and share, and I think the more people involved, it makes it a little bit easier to learn new things. So if I was going to do any of these, I would choose the Conversation Cafe or the Rapid Results because it's quick and because you can get a lot done in that short amount of time. So conclusion. So I realized that so many of these design elements are very similar to each other. And at first I felt like I was reading the same one over and over again with a twist, kind of like that game of telephone. So I was a little bit confused at first, and what do I do? I had an overwhelming amount of information to look at. But then I did a game plan, I took notes, and I was hoping it came together, and it did, and this is how I feel at the end of this. Like Johnny Drama, we got victory. Then here are my references. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.